What's up guys, this is Saiyan here coming at you with another deck tech today. And I'm sure you'll be surprised when you see that again I'm talking about a Boujack deck, but the thing is that the meta has changed so much. When I did the last profile it was very much still set 6, obviously set 7 came out, set 8 is around the corner. I saw Senzu Pop's video on the deck as well, and I really liked it, and I have implemented some of the changes he's made, but I also kept my own playstyle in the deck a little bit. So I'm gonna run you through that. And rather than going into what each card do, because by now, guys, you should be knowing pretty much which card can get out what and all the complicated things, I'm just gonna really talk a little bit more about how to play the deck and what scenarios you may encounter, what is a good starting hand, things like that. So really quickly to get through the deck profile, come on, follow me. Okay, so we've got Piccolo here today to give us a bit of a hand. Obviously our leader is Bojack. You guys know what he does. The good thing about him is that he can pump himself, he can draw us cards our turn, our opponent's turn, buffs himself a little bit as well, but doesn't do anything when he awakens. You don't want to awaken with him. You really want to keep him on the unawakened side if you can. Starting with the gang, the crew, the brigades. I run 4 Beto. 4 is the correct number of Beto. You have to run the 4 because he's your main rinse and repeat card. He's the guy who will look at your top 5 and get you something juicy. So you always want to have 4 Beto, of course. 3 Bujin. 3, I think 3 is the correct number for Bujin. I tend to have had problems when I had 4, just clogged my hand up a little bit. But the fact that you can then obviously bring out a 2 cost or less from your hand, that's pretty cool. Now Zangia has to be a 4 of because of that critical ability and the fact that she searches your deck for a 1-drop and obviously brings it into play. That's massive. So you want to make sure you definitely have 4 Zangia. I'm still sticking with the 3 Gokua because in effect this guy can really clog up your hand. Yeah, it's great that you can play more than one of him, but he's not a big guy. He's not a beat stick, and his second ability to bring out a 3 cost has been quite significantly reduced since we're running a lot less Bojacks to bring our big guy out. But his first auto is still pretty cool, and of course you can play him with Bujin, so it's like a backup if you don't have a Zangief in your hand. Okay, that's it for the crew. Let's move on to the Bojack cards, because obviously they are mostly the heart of the deck. We still run the 4 of counter, and obviously he becomes a 1 cost when you have a multicolor card in your energy. It has to be yellow and blue. And of course he does mill 1, but we really just want to play him on our opponent's turn. Make sure, guys, you always play him obviously on your opponent's turn. You don't want to spend that 3 chi cost during your turn unless you want to bring him out with the Goku. If it's like turn 5 and you don't have any Bojack down and you have the finisher in your hand, then use Goku, get him out, and then use the big guy to evolve. I do still have kept 1 of the Agent of Destruction Bojack, just to have a 5th 3-drop target in case hell breaks loose. And I still like that idea that I can tap my opponent's leader, particularly if you can bring him out like turn 2 with your Goku. That can be really good against obviously Shenron decks. So these guys will obviously bring out our main beater, but we also have another finisher. This is the little Bojack, as I call it. Little to the big guy, obviously. But I think his double strike is really good. He just, again, as I said in the previous video, he just has everything built in that you want to see Bojack do. So he taps down, he becomes cheaper. He's a 20k double strike, so he's a pretty decent card in my opinion. And anyway, the deck lacks some finishes. And of course, the creme de la creme in the deck, the big guy, who you want to bring out always turn 4, always turn 4. So You really want to make sure that you have him in your hand latest by when you draw for turn 4. But that doesn't really tend to be a problem. I'm going to run through that really when we've gone through the quick deck profile. So you know what he does, but basically, if you know your opponent stepping out quite frequently, which tends to be different with all the new counter plays that came out in set 7. With this guy, it became now more critical to try and save your life, stay at 5 life, so when you do drop him, you just tap your opponent out. That's really big because of all the counter plays that came out recently. But these guys are our main finishers, obviously. Boujack the Tyrant and this guy. So with Zangia, you can give him, obviously, a double strike. He has the double strike. Zangia gives him a critical. That's pretty sweet. He can get dual attack if you sacrifice one of your Bojack Brigade cards. And he can also do a dual attack crit. So you can do this and then finish off with this guy. Of course, our 4 super combos is still the 4 Zangias, just really good super combo for this deck, obviously. And then going into a little bit of spice that I've picked up from Sanzu Pop channel is the Frost, the path to full power. I honestly don't know why I didn't clock this guy. I suppose I wasn't really focusing a lot on the Bojack's Brigade deck until he just revitalized my love for this deck with that video. But he is an absolutely brilliant card to support our Beto, because obviously Beto can only shuffle back 1 and 2 costs. Well, this dude will shuffle back your pretty much everything you got in the deck, your super combos, all your Bojack cards, everything with 35,000 power or less. 3 cards that have 3 cards that have 35 power or less. That's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So this guy is really, really cool. And we're also running the counter package, the blue and yellow counter package. Originally, I got these cards when I was when Set 7 was being pre-released. I really liked the idea that these cards will really go well into the Bojack deck, and they haven't disappointed. This Champa is the better one. Obviously, he costs 2 once you get a multicolor card in your energy, and he's really, really cool because he will tap a barrier card, and you also get to draw a card if it's your opponent's turn. So realistically, what you'll find is with this deck, you play a lot in your opponent's deck, and it was the case before Set 7, but obviously Set 7 now, a lot of decks do that. But this has just carried on doing the same thing. The other 3, we got Undying Spirit Son Gohan. He's also really good, but I don't think as good as Champa. But the fact that he basically returns a card back to your opponent's hand with 4 cost or less is really good. And he also untaps 1 of your energy, which can be good. Depends what you got going on. Obviously, you need to keep 2 energy up for him, and an extra 1 energy can then give you a special, or not a special, an extra energy to play or counter attack Bojack, for example, and then you get to draw a card of him. Okay, moving on, let's go and see what the double color cards are then that we need for these previous cards to run at best capability. So obviously you have the 4 Bojack Resonant Agent of Destruction. Again, really cool card. Always play it on your opponent's turn. The fact that you get blocker, the fact that he tops something down, and he also mills a card is just really good. But ultimately, you get a 20k blocker down the field just to protect your leader. Excellent card. And I run 3 Beerus Fickle God. The reason why I run 3 is because I have another deck where I run the same ratio, and I've noticed that it really does work, because at the end of the day, what you want to maximize is your Bojack cards, and if you get 2 Bojack cards, let's say, and 1 Beerus in your starting hand, then what you want to do is, obviously, it doesn't matter which one you play, they will anyway come down tapped, so you might as well put down a Bojack, You still have 3 left, and then the second turn you can then put down your Beerus active. I've done a lot of testing with both decks in terms of how these double color cards work, and this is the ratio I came to. It really makes sense to me because you want to maximize the good cards, and you really want to make sure you have double color card in your first turn. You're not gonna do anything else in your first turn. You're just gonna play a double color card tabbed. Okay, and then finally, let's look at the extra cards. And the extra cards have significantly reduced since the previous profile. Of course, we've lost both the Crusher Balls, we've lost Dimension Magic. They went into the side deck. And so with that, we have 3 Arrival of the Space Pirates. Again, I wouldn't run 4. 4 is just too much. This card becomes fairly obsolete after turn 2. There are some cases where if you really struggle and you don't get a double color card, obviously in your starting hand, which does happen, then it's really good if you have an Arrival in your hand. That's gonna still start your chain, and you just get your chain out the first turn rather than getting your chain out in the second turn. But realistically, for this deck, it doesn't really matter whether you get that chain out first turn, second turn. You obviously lose an energy for your second turn if you don't get your double color card in the first one, but that's just what it is. Obviously, being my original tech choice, Merciless Farewell, just that jolly joker that can really be unexpected for your opponent. The fact that you play for 1, activate battle after your opponent combo, you just drop 2 cards, which is not really an issue for this deck. You kind of balance out your hand. I mean, you're not going to have like 10, 12 cards in your hand like some decks do, but you're gonna stay on that consistent 6, which is what this is the best you can do realistically with this deck. But Merciless Farewell, really good get out of jail for free card, and I have kept 3 Senzu Bean in the deck. And you guys may think like, well, dude, how is that gonna work for your Arrival? Well, it's gonna work for the Arrival because we still got 3 Gohan. And we have 7 double color cards, which obviously, yes, some of them we want to use for energy, but also don't forget that a lot of the times this deck just really wants to defend itself. So the fact that you can run out of Senzu Bean on 1 blue energy, that will give you 2 energies, and then you can play one of the counterplay guys to tap somebody down or return somebody back into the hand, and that could really put your opponent back just that 1 turn, and that's all you want to do. You just want to keep defending until you get to turn 4, where you drop your big guy. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about the deck itself and how it tends to run. So obviously, Bojack, as I said previously, you really don't want to awaken with this guy because you're really realistically not really going to achieve anything. So you really want to defend him as much as you can. If he does awaken, yes, you can then obviously combo with tapped battle cards, which can be sometimes good. But realistically, you want to use your main gang for their abilities, and not necessarily to combo with them. There's a really good, really good little trick that you can do, and you can start with that literally turn 1, turn 2. As soon as you get the crew out, and what I mean by the crew, you want to get a Zangia, you want to get a Bujin, and you want to get a Beto out. So when you get these 3 out, and you can always get these 3, pretty much always can get these 3 out, especially if you can, well, these 4 cards will pretty much bring each other out in any way, however you do it. So what you can do is you basically swing with Bojack after you played any of these guys. He gets the plus 5k. You swing with Bojack, and basically second auto, if you combo with one of more cards, if you basically combo with 2 cards from your combo area that are Bojack's Brigade, then you can choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO it. So when Bujin comes down, he taps down 1 card. So what you do is basically you bring these guys down. Obviously, what you want to make sure is that they're down, and then when you swing with Bojack, what you're going to do is you will combo with Bujin, tap one of his guys down, and let's say you combo with Bito because next turn you want to search again. You're comboing with these two guys. He's now 25k, obviously, and you tap something down with Bito, and immediately you are going to kill that guy. So that's a really good little interaction to go. Every turn you can basically pop a guy with Bojack as long as they don't have barrier, which is amazing. It's really good because that allows us to have onboard removal, which is very important. The cards we can't deal with, the cards with barrier, and unfortunately there are way too many cards with barrier. We now have access to Champa, and that can give us just that extra crucial turn to keep one of their guys with barrier tapped, because it's tapped when you place card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards. Ignoring barrier, switch it to rest mode. Obviously, we're going to do this in your opponent's turn, so we're going to have his guy obviously stay tapped in that turn, unless they have deflect as well. If they have deflect, then obviously you can't counterplay. But if you can't counterplay, that's still not the end of the world. You still have a couple of ways around it. You can still Senzu Bean, and that might just get you to protect your Bojack. Okay, another thing, obviously, you guys know that when you got 4 battle cards, 2 or less in your graveyard, then you can pop Beto and he will count as the 5th one. And then you can obviously recycle back into your deck 5 cards, which is great because we basically have 6 cards that will almost give us an auto win against Janemba. And Janemba is still very big, obviously, as you guys know. So we got multiple ways to keep ourselves obviously restocked. Bito obviously only does Bojack Gang with 2 or less, but anyway, you want to just basically keep rotating these guys back and forth in your deck, and Frost will obviously come in to recycle everything else. And what you really want to make sure is, as long as you got 1 Frost in your graveyard, you're always recycling that Frost back into your deck. Don't ever get to the situation where both of your Frosts are in the drop. Then you're fucked. But as long as you got 1 in the graveyard, when you play the other one, or when you combo with it, when you combo with this guy, the other one will then go back to your deck, and you can carry on just doing again this constant cycle of putting one of this guy back, and then maybe 2 super combos, because obviously they are 35,000 or less. Maybe 2 super combos, or you can, if for any reason somehow your opponent may have remove this guy, then obviously you want to get him back. Okay, another important thing obviously is the fact that you really want to get a good idea of what deck you're playing against, because this guy, obviously he's our main finisher. You want to make sure that when he lands, he is going to be able to just basically clean your opponent's hand. But to get to that point, you really need to preserve your life. So what you want to do up until turn 4, until you can drop this guy, is you make sure that you're getting all your guys down. Okay, that's very essential that you get these guys down, because obviously they bring each other out. You need that extra combo power to be able to kill one of your guys, particularly when Boujack comes down and obviously drops someone. And it's also really important that all the counters, the Bojack counters, and the rival cards, I mean these 4 and these 4, you play as soon as you can. Obviously, yes, it can be matchup dependent, but you play them as soon as you can, and you always play them at during your opponent's turn. And again, I've done a lot of testing with this deck. As long as so the Senzu Bean essentially will allow you to either go into the situation where you can both then counterattack and maybe a rival. I wouldn't recommend doing both at the same turn. You kind of want to make sure that you get one of these down every time your opponent has a go, because these will always draw you a card in your opponent's turn as well. And Bojack will get that very crucial extra 5k power, which can be really, really important, obviously. A lot of people forget to mill the extra card from your opponent's deck, but it's very crucial you do that. Not that it matters a huge lot, not the fact that you want to mill them out, but you want to make sure that they drop every single card that that you can make them drop. Just so, because it could be a crucial piece, and the fact we got 8 cards that mill something, that's actually not a bad little thing to have. And then once you go here and you basically empty their hands, that's when you really, really need to make sure that when this guy comes down, I know he has dual attack, but it's really important to remember that you want to keep him in active position. So always go for the dual attack, sacrifice somebody, give him critical, swing him for a critical, and then restand him and keep him there. What you kind of want to get to is to be able to play the dual strike or the double strike one. This guy here, because he can really, really well complement this guy to finish off the game quickly. Don't think that you won just because you've managed to warp your opponent's hand. It can be played around, particularly if your opponent is kind of expecting it to happen. Again, there's a lot of cards coming out now, even green getting cards, where they can untap some of their energy. So it's fairly crucial that you get to the point where you know you're going to finish your opponent off. And up until turn 4, when you can drop this guy, and again, you really need to get to the point where you can drop this guy in turn 4. Up until that point, you can obviously defend yourself with the blocker, get the counter attacks out, use these guys to gain some time. Obviously, your opponent just wasted 4 energy, and you also get to untap 1 of your energy. That's absolutely brilliant. You may play this guy for 2, but then you untap 1 of your yellow ones, and then you can play this guy, obviously with a rival. So you've all of a sudden in your opponent's turn, you put down a 15k and a 20k, a 15k guy and a 20k blocker, which is just, it's really, really big. There are still fringe situations where you want to use this guy, and again, remember, Goku can bring him out for 1. Yes, technically Goku can bring him out for 1 as well, but you always want to play him in your opponent's turn. But this guy, if you get this guy, he can be really good for those situations. Again, he deals with a barrier card, puts it into rest mode, so he basically gives us the fifth where did I put that? Champa. He's here. Yeah, so he's basically almost like your 4th Champa in a way, and of course his activate main ability is really, really cool to tap your opponent's leader down for a turn. Okay, so you want to make your moves mostly during your opponent's turn, and you can really, really cost effectively bring these down. Ideally, if you do it right, you can always do this from 1 energy. So you either start with this guy, play him, get your Zangia, then Zangia will get out your Bujin from your deck, and then hopefully you have a Beto that you can then play from your hand. If you, let's say for example, you got a Zangia, then obviously you bring out a Beto, and then you can play this guy from your hand. These two are really good at getting cards out. This is really good at getting cards out. The Beto will be your setup card that you use to find predominantly these guys. Or if you can't find this guy, obviously, then you go into trying to find anything that you can pick up. Most of the time, I always hit a Bojack's Brigade card in the top 5. So you get your super combo. That's obviously worth the money. If you get this guy, oh, definitely you want to have this guy in your hand if you can. He will be able to find this guy fairly easy. I say fairly easy, not obviously not the easiest. It could be in your life, but there is still a good chance that you might find this one, and of course this guy as well. He can bring out. So we have a lot of different opportunities to go into, and of course we do have the this bloke here as well. So you can find probably about 80% of your deck, 75% of your deck, I would say easily. So he's huge. He's huge for this deck, and that's why obviously, maybe if you got the Boujack in your hand with Zanga, you want to go into him and make sure that you obviously get him down just to be able to search. And if you do this, that's basically how your first turn tends to go. That okay, you got your Bojack out. So let's say you Arrival of the Space Pirates. You obviously stack your own autos, so you don't have to activate the draw and plus 5k until you decide to do that. So what you will do is play Arrival of the Space Pirates, play Zangia tapped, get your Bujin out, and then get this guy out. Then you search with this guy. Let's say you find him, and then you decide to activate and draw another card. And why you want to do that is because with that draw card, you want to find your extra cards if you can, not necessarily another Bojack's Gang card. This will give you a better chance of finding a Bojack's Brigade card before you draw that one card off him. Not that it's a massive difference, but it can still be, 10 games out of 1, you might say, oh, god damn it, I wish I would have, excuse me for my cursing, I wish I would have, stacked the autos differently. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Besides that, it's just defend, defend, defend. Make sure you obviously draw as many cards as you can. Certainly with the addition of the new Champas, we can draw a little bit more cards. Obviously, Champa replaces himself whenever we play the Arrival or the counter in our opponent, the counter Bojack in our opponent's turn. Those will replace themselves as well. So it's really just having that slight little defensive tempo kind of advantage that you want to build with this deck, that you always have a little bit of board presence. These guys are not strong, okay? These guys are not strong at all. Don't forget that. I mean, these little guys, these are like little cupcakes, yeah? With that 3,000 power, that's nothing. These aren't gonna hold a front. What you want to use these guys is what their abilities are. All these guys have 2-3 abilities, easy. And they all are there to support the big guy, the big man, Bojack. And I do believe this deck is a lot more viable than it was, certainly when it came out originally in the Set 6, but then it has gotten quite a lot of support. Not immediate straight Bojack support, not since the EX, the previous edition, but we certainly have gotten some bullshit coming up on my screen. Excellent. I just needed you to come out here. Anyway, guys, I kept it very long. So anyway, this is pretty much the deck right now as it is. I don't think set 8 is really going to focus on blue-yellow. So we shall see what set 9 brings. But anyway, in the meantime, make sure you like, subscribe, share, leave a comment below if you want to have some more questions. But Saiyan is signing out. Peace out, YouTube.